Well, good evening, good evening. Welcome to a Friday night edition of Monday Evening Crypto Chat. So we're going to give you a second bonus. My name is Red Baron. Thank you very much for joining the chat. Thank you very much for joining the show. Glad to have you with us as always. The subscriber base continues to grow. We can't thank you enough for the time you spend with us. So again, we got a special broadcast. We're going to do a second crypto chat tonight. We got a very special guest with us, which is XRP Patty from the DeFiStandard.com. And we'll get to him just in a second. But first of all, obviously, we're watching the markets here. Now, again, like I said, most of you guys are used to me doing market breakdowns and stuff during this show. I'm not going to do that anymore because we're going to kind of try to keep this somewhat timeless. I want to be able to have this information be relevant here in about 6 months, maybe even 12 months from now. So it makes no sense to do charting that's indelibly part of this that is no longer relevant in 4, 5, 6 months from now. So we're just going to go ahead and stick to the core of the information, and we do have quite a bit of information tonight. So Patty's going to talk to us a little bit about XRP, but he's going to talk about the FLR network and quite a few other things. So I'll sit back and enjoy yourself here. We'll be with you here in just 1 second while I wait for everybody to come into the chat. Meanwhile, while you guys are along here for the ride, you guys that are new, you guys are coming over from Patty's channel, welcome. Again, we're glad to have all you guys be a part of what we're doing here. And if you'd like to join us over on our site, over at our Discord, you can join us at the unfairadvantage.chat, www.theunfairadvantage.chat. And if you'd like to subscribe to our AI-powered charts that we're specialized in, you can do that at fibicharts.com, F-I-B-I charts.com. And if you missed that description, just go ahead and just look at the description for the video, and the links to both of those are right there, and you can just go ahead and click on them. I don't want to put too fine a point on that, so I'll make it easy for you guys to go. Just go to the video description, and everything you need is right there. So without much ado here, any further ado, we'll go ahead and get to my man here today. So XRP Patty, how you doing, brother?
Good. How you doing, Red Baron?
Great. So what do you got to talk to us tonight about?
Yeah, I think we can start off with FLR Network as, it may not be totally known to a lot of people yet, but there is going to be the first ever Federated Byzantine Agreement Turing complete blockchain network launching here, possibly in the next couple of weeks to months. So we're going to see what happens there, but basically, the FLR network is built for DeFi and unleashing value. About 65% of the value in cryptocurrencies does not have trustless and decentralized accessibility to smart contracts. So, that's a lot of capital inefficiency out there, and we have a lot of legacy networks like the XRP Ledger or Stellar or Litecoin, Bitcoin even, Bitcoin Cash, and these are blockchains that have stood around for a long time now, and they also have a lot of value in them that could be used in other applications as well as what it's meant to be used for on their blockchain.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people may be familiar with, wrapping your tokens from one blockchain to another blockchain and how it will lock up those tokens on the native chain it's coming from. Well, the FLR network is kind of taking a different approach here. They've created a decentralized application called the F-Asset system. And what this does is it utilizes these groups called agents, which are basically, mainly like institutions, funds, exchanges, maybe your CeFi providers. You could do it as an individual, but, it's going to take some technical capacity and some reserves to pay what they're going to have to do. And basically, they take the native token of the FLR network, which is called the Spark token, and they use it as collateral to back the minting of these assets onto the FLR network. And so the collateral backing is set at a 2.5 times ratio, which is going to be in US dollar value. So you can imagine if, let's say XRP is at $1 to make this easy, you mint 1 XRP onto the FLR network, and it would be deemed FXRP. That's where the F-Asset notation comes in. And basically, they would back it with $2.5 worth of Spark tokens. So that's like the main use case for the native token of the network, is to be used as collateral. Additionally, in that process, you have the right to redeem your XRP or whatever other like integrated asset. So the other ones would be Litecoin, Stellar, and Dogecoin to start off. you have the right to redeem that on the underlying blockchain at any point in time. So that's kind of a rundown how the F asset system works.
Real quick, something popped into my head here because I'm not clear. I'm asking for myself, but I know that I'm pretty
definitely
representative of that. Listening to another YouTuber, I assume that you have had dealings with him, and his name fails me at the top, right off the top. But also another big proponent of XRP. He was talking about being able to do that swap. Going one way, there's a fee. Going the other way, there's not. Could you break that down for us, if you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So there are actually fees both ways, and enable for you to mint onto the Flare network that representation of value, you are going to have to pay something called a creation fee and then also a collateral reservation fee. The collateral reservation fee is something like 0.1% of the total transaction, so pretty nominal. It's also paid in the Spark token. But however, in order to mint, the creation fee is paid in the underlying asset that you're minting onto the Flare network. And before, you go like, okay, I got to pay, to do this and everything. That fee is going to be variable based on a bidding system. So as there's higher demand to mint F assets and lower, collateral available, that fee is going to rise. And then, if the opposite is going on, it'll be lower. So in times of low demand, you can get it on for cheaper. However, once you mint on to the Flare network, you are going to be getting automatic yield delivered to you and the possibility to generate multiple yield streams with that single asset. So, while maybe you pay let's say 2 or 3% to mint it onto the network, there's a bunch of rewards coming in the Spark token as well as some of the other DApp protocols that are going to be on the network that you now have access to. So basically, you're paying for the access of smart contracts, which, XRP or Stellar, Bitcoin, Litecoin, they don't have smart contracts on their native blockchains.
I just recalled the name of the guy, Digital Asset Investor. Sorry, I was having a senior moment there but he actually referred to FLR as being the gift that keeps on giving. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so let's kind of touch on what that means. So basically, they bootstrapped the Flare network by using the XRP community, and that's why you may see Flare network described as a utility fork. However, this does not mean it's a fork of the code. It's entirely its own blockchain. What they mean with the utility fork is they took an existing user base and they're filling a need that, the XRP holders do not currently have. I've been a long time XRP holder, and there's not really much to do in terms of utilizing the token, especially for retail. A lot of the products, as many know with Ripple, are centered around businesses and institutions transferring value across borders.
Correct.
So that's not really something that I'm doing as, your average guy. So with that, they're bringing smart contracts and all these DeFi applications that you'd see on Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain now, and you're giving it to some legacy blockchains that typically haven't had it. But with this Spark token, it has the ability to be wrapped in a smart contract, and it gives us this power of a detachable vote, which means that you can kind of delegate your token to what is called the Flare Time Series Oracle. So this is something that's, kind of like Chainlink. It does what Chainlink does, for people that are familiar with that. It's basically bringing external data from outside the blockchain onto the network. And the main reason for this is when you mint an F asset onto the Flare network, its price is going to be pegged to the underlying asset. So just because, let's say you minted XRP onto FXRP, and the case clears up and the price skyrockets, you're going to get that value, that price appreciation. So you're still going to have exposure to the volatility in the price. So with the Spark token, they have a whole slew of what are called signal providers, and these are people that are scraping the internet every second to feed prices to the FTSO so it can update. And in order to make sure there's no outlier skewing data, every single Spark token will count as a data point, which is referred to as a vote in the ecosystem, and you can get returns for doing that. So the FTSO is also the inflation mechanism. It's going to be set at 10% a year, up to governance to change that after the first 6 months, and it can be lowered, raised, whatever is needed. But what that means, instead of let's say a central bank printing new money or issuing new debt, and that money not coming to you, so you're having your purchasing power diluted, the inflation of the network goes directly to the participants. So that's kind of one of the cool things right off the bat with the Spark token. It also allows you to kind of overcome parts of the Oracle problem by creating a decentralized and reliable Oracle, by having it be like one of the main features of the native token. And interestingly enough, as the Spark token is being locked up as collateral to mint these F assets, you can also still delegate this vote at the same time. So you can see how we can start generating 2 yield streams at once. You can also use a Spark token in any of the applications that are being built on the network. 2 right off the bat are going to be Trustline and FLR Finance.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to take a sip of water real quick.
While you do that, here, let me go ahead and take a little break. For you guys that are just drifting in, we get people that come in, come out, and go in and go out of the chat. So welcome for you guys that are just kind of coming in a little bit late. Thank you very much for your checking us out here. If you'd like to know a little bit more about us, please do so at the unfairadvantage.chat. And of course, obviously, you'd like to subscribe to our regular YouTube channel, which is the unfairadvantage.tube. That's what you're watching right now. You can like and subscribe and come back. And normally what we do is we do crypto chats normally on Monday. This is a special edition we're doing on Friday here because we've got a lot of new information, timely information. And Patty's going to be back with us here again, and we're going to cover a lot more. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So now I got some water there.
Okay, let me finish this out here real quick. So you guys that would like to know a little bit more about us, please join us at the unfairadvantage.chat. And of course, obviously, this is our main website, which is fibicharts.com. That's our predictive AI chart subscription service that you can subscribe to. So you can find out more about that and watch our past videos and see what it is we actually do besides just talk crypto. So again, back to Pat. Go ahead and go on back to where you're at.
Cool. Yeah, so 2 of the main components that we just kind of covered, F asset system, FLR time series Oracle. One thing I'm going to say about this F asset system, so you're probably like, okay, so somebody's managing this collateral. When you mint F assets, you don't post the collateral yourself. Like I was saying, you'll have more like business entities doing this. You also give up the underlying asset to them with the right to redeem it at any time. So you may be thinking, okay, XRP skyrockets in price, maybe over the course of a month, and now this agent, would rather keep that. Well, the way the system's set up, there's not really, it's meant to be where there's no situation where the agent, by defaulting on a required action, would be better off. Otherwise, they would just do that. And this is basically, so we have the FTSO updating on a sub-minute basis. So we would have to see the price of XRP, I would say, basically be set for something like that to happen, and then everybody to take action extremely quickly. Personally, I find it extremely difficult that they can set the price of a decentralized asset like this across the entire world. Just kind of the mechanics behind all that would be
that'd be a little bit of
a
bit of a heavy lift, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm more the type that we'll see like all the cross-border remittances and stuff with XRP just kind of ramping up over time. If you put it all through at once and it breaks, it's just, I feel like, not a good way to launch stuff.
No.
So anyways, getting back to that, they also have, since the Spark tokens being locked in smart contracts for the collateral, if they fall below the collateral ratio, these agents, under a minute, about a time frame for them to check, the network will give them a call band, which is similar to a margin call, saying, hey, you need to up this collateral ratio within the next minute or so. If they don't do this, then the smart contracts automatically start purchasing the F asset that's now under collateralized off the open market, and they start bringing it back to start closing that agent's position so they can't default on it. So that's one kind of security measure. The other is, let's say the agent, this is kind of an outlier scenario, but let's say for whatever reason the agent defaults on giving you your XRP back on the XRP ledger, or it can be Litecoin on the Litecoin blockchain or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the collateral they have at 2.5 times, you get the full value of whatever was not given back to you, plus 100 basis points on top of that. So you can go and trade back into the asset you had, basically. So that's like the last measure, last resort, fail-safe kind of deal. And, the other thing that allows the system to check it, which I think is super novel and probably one of the least talked about aspects of Flare, is what they call the state connector system. So
Sorry about that, guys. We had an audio.
you're good.
Where do we lose you guys at? I apologize. If I've got a keyboard shortcut that must have got bumped there. I'm sorry if we went. Technology problems. All right. Where do we lose you guys at? I apologize. That was my bad. Back up about 3 minutes. We'll pick up from there.
Oh boy, where were we at 3 minutes ago?
I apologize. Our broadcast software has personality issues to begin with. So just back up on your last thought. You'll be fine.
1 minute ago?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Right.
So, yeah, we were talking about the security measures. Basically, the F-asset system will purchase F-assets off the open market if the agents fall below the collateral ratio for about more than a minute. Additionally, state connector. Okay, thank you, CryptoG. So the state connector system. All right, I really like this. So basically, this allows the Flare network to digest external network state changes. So, transactions occurring on, let's say, the XRP ledger. And, earlier we were talking about how you give your XRP over to an agent on the XRP ledger side of things. Then the Flare network needs to get a signal that tells it to mint your F asset on the Flare network and deliver it to you. Without that, then that system doesn't work. So they tap into the decentralization of the underlying blockchains. And the way that they do this is all the validators on the Flare network also operate as validators on the integrated blockchains. And they basically will have a race to provide the state change from, let's say, the XRP ledger back to the Flare network. And they go through a process where, you have to have enough availability across all the validators and nodes, and then they have to verify it. Once that's done, the validator that was operating on the underlying blockchain then gets a reward in the Spark token. So what this enables is the fact that the Flare network can connect with any other blockchain without that blockchain knowing it exists, because the Flare network basically adapts whatever the consensus is running on that underlying chain. Like Polkadot, I've done reading on, they're really big on interoperability and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. The only thing is, for some networks, let's say if it's not a smart contract network, they may require to get help from the underlying blockchain to build that bridge. So Bitcoin's one in their white paper that specifically states that. So the Flare network in the future, and they talk about this in the white paper for Flare, it says that in the future, the Flare network could be used to propagate assets onto other smart contract networks like Polkadot or Cosmos. So you could maybe see a parachain bridge between Flare network and Polkadot in the future. And what this means is, since Flare is really good at connecting to these legacy blockchains that don't necessarily incorporate smart contracts, that means you could see Flare as a hub to bring all those together, allow them to unlock their value, and then also propagate that value onto other networks if, let's say, there's some application that makes more sense for you to go over there, but you still don't have to trade out of your token. So I think opening interoperability, I think it fits into what a lot of the best projects are trying to do today, and also brings it to a lot of older blockchains that haven't been paid attention to, as much with kind of the boom we've seen in DeFi. And, the other thing is we know with XRP, a lot of institutions own XRP, and we're moving into a world where institutions and funds can all get closer and closer to participating in decentralized finance, and that's going to be one way to do it. Additionally, the Flare network is built with institutional grade in mind. That's one of their huge target markets.
Correct.
So they're trying to go after that. And ultimately, I think that's part of the reason they chose the XRP community, is because they know who holds that, at least on the higher rung. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that kind of explains how they're able to connect with different blockchains. Those are I'd say the three main components that the Flare team is actually putting together for the Flare network. We also know that the Spark token has basically built-in yield once you get it, as you can start delegating your vote to a signal provider in the FTSO. It's really simple to do. You'll be able to do it from some of the wallets that are going to provide an interface to tap into these applications. Those would be Bifrost Wallet, Decent Wallet, MetaMask are the three right now. Mm-hmm. They're also going to have like somewhere between 25 and 50 exchanges list the token at launch, which I think is pretty huge number of exchanges. And in fact, the airdrop they did for the XRP community, or which will happen once it launches, is one of the largest airdrops in the history of crypto as well. So they've kind of gotten a lot of people to participate in this. Interestingly enough, I saw Red Bear talking about the Reef project. I saw you guys were talking about that recently.
Yeah, we just had a question come in. One of our listeners wanted to know what's the difference between Reef and Flare.
So I don't know enough about Reef to tell you that. I'm gonna start looking into it now that I saw some of the stuff Red Bear was posting on it.
Yeah, we're huge Reef fans over at Fibby Charts. So.
Okay, so yeah, here's what I was gonna bring up about that, since I figured that you guys may like this. LG Capital and Kinetic Capital both invested in Reef. They're also invested in the Flare Limited team, which is going to be the corporated entity that the people building Flare are going to form to be participants in the network. So they have those two. I want to say, LD Capital is not the one I'm thinking of. But on top of LD Capital and Kinetic, so Kinetic, the head guy is Jaehan Chu, who's involved with the Handshake network that is going to do some stuff with Flare in the future, and that's all about the future, Web 3.0 domains and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Additionally, they got Charlie Lee, the Litecoin creator. He's an investor in the Flare Limited team. You're going to have Do Kwon, the guy from Terra. Ripple is invested. You have Digital Currency Group, which is the owners of, Grayscale, and then one other firm I can't remember. But they have a lot of heavy hitters invested in it. They raised about $11.3 million. And Hugo, the CEO of the Flare team, basically stated that they turned down a lot of people and were being offered multiples of that $11.3 million.
I was going to say, it sounds like a pretty low figure to me.
They didn't want any more. So let's talk about the token distribution then. I think that's a good segue into it.
Okay.
So there's 100 billion tokens that are basically going to be the initial starting supply, matching XRP. And with that...
Will that be on the open market?
No, not at first. Okay. So they're dropping 15% at launch, and then each following month, a pseudo-random number between 2 and 4% is going to be chosen by the FTSO, and that's what will be dropped each month. And following that...
Explain why they're doing that. I know the answer, but explain to people that, honestly, there wasn't a lot of hype about how this stuff was going to be distributed. And a lot of people were kind of a little bit, to be honest, we're kind of pissed. And what do you mean I'm going to have to wait all this time to get my hair?
Yeah, so I feel really passionate about that issue because, they did state before, people actually had to claim or put their XRP on an exchange to have it delivered that way. They said that this is what they're doing. Additionally, they have specific reasons stated. One is they have all these partnerships with these exchanges to distribute the token for 3 years. Right. That means that they're going to have to keep up with that for 3 years, and they're going to constantly know what Flare is for 3 years. So if Flare starts doing well, that may entice them to start building products on the Flare network or participating in the Oracle system or as an agent in the F-Asset system. These exchanges are dealing with this stuff all the time, so they're perfect candidates to be involved in that. You could even be a really crappy signal provider and just give whatever, the prices on your exchange every second for these assets. So, that's one way is to try and get them involved in the ecosystem. And then additionally, one of the things I think, let's say you get your Spark token and you don't really care to look into it, you don't know anything. But so you sell your 15% at launch, and then you sell 3% the next couple of months. But you're like, oh wow, this Spark project, total value locks going up. We're seeing a lot of volume on the liquidity pools there. The price is moving up, stuff like that. It's looking good. Well, now you have these people that are basically getting pinged for 3 years with this token. And, I imagine over time, if the network performs, like I imagine it will, since this is what I've been looking into a lot and spent a lot of time with since I believe in it. But they basically, they'll eventually say, okay, maybe I'm going to start utilizing this. And then that also brings in, if they like the ecosystem, other money they have on the side, they can now bring into the network.
Sure.
Or if it's an XRP holder, they start minting, FXRP on the network. And minting FXRP is highly incentivized, and this is part kind of the token distribution. They're dedicating essentially 20 billion of that 100 billion supply to a general F asset rewards pool. Numbers aren't finalized. This was their last estimate that they put out. They should be finalizing them really soon. So that's 20% of the supply going to reward people that mint FXRP, FDoge, and FXLM. Additionally, they have a 5 billion Spark pool out of that 100 billion total that is dedicated to go directly to people that mint FLTC. So for the Litecoin community. So we have 25% being distributed in rewards. Basically, all the inflation coming from the FTSO is going to be rewards. And then on top of that, around 30 to 35 billion are going to be airdropped to XRP holders. The FLR team gets about, I want to say it's 25 billion, and then, which is 25% of that starting supply. And then also the FLR Foundation, I think, is getting 10 billion at this point. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing about the FLR Foundation, they can't participate with the token anyway in the network. So the only way it gets on the open market is whenever they sell it to fund their operations or something that the Spark token holders commission them to do. And also with FLR Limited getting 25 billion, their plans are to continue to, be a part of this network. They're going to operate as a signal provider to the FTSO and as an agent in the F asset system. So they'll be like locking their Spark as collateral. And that's what they got that investment for, is what they're going to be doing on the network. Like, it wasn't the FLR network that got invested in, it was their incorporated entity that's going to be a participant on it. And so kind of to go from there, additionally, Hugo's team, they're all ML, AI, machine learning, and then also derivatives background. So I kind of anticipate them to build more projects on top of the network. I'm really hoping they're going to be the ones to put together a derivatives platform, since that's something that's really missing from DeFi. I know Opine or Open, I don't know how to pronounce it. They're doing that on Ethereum. Yeah. And one of the things that's going to really bring institutions in is the ability to hedge. So it's very lacking in the markets at this point. Agreed. You have to go through exchanges, and really I hate dealing with exchanges at this point in time, since I think everybody knows that they kind of fail. It's
there's the understatement of the evening.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And so, trying to get away from that. And so if they're able to build something like that, we also have this new project that has a partnership with FLR. They're about to launch on Ethereum sometime in the next 2 months, called Panther Protocol. So what they do is regulatory compliant DeFi, or privacy for DeFi. They use what's called ZK snarks, which is a type of zero knowledge proof. And they're basically able to kind of prove your legitimacy without revealing your underlying data to everybody. And then you can selectively disclose if you have to. What this does is allows institutions to get the privacy they need to protect their alpha, which is highly important to them. They don't want to go on a DeFi network and start putting out all their strategies and stuff where somebody can copy what they're doing. Even though they may not know who they are, they can find their account and start tracing it. Certainly. But the Panther Protocol allows you to do this in a private way, so you can hide what you're doing and protect your returns above the market, and what ultimately makes hedge funds and pension funds and their managers money in the long run. So that, and then coupled with a future derivatives, can really open it up for these entities to come on, which is something I'm really excited about. Panther would probably launch on FLR in Q4 or Q1 of next year. Mm-hmm. Q4 of this year or Q1 of next year. So they kind of have some, things to bring in larger entities that really have the big money into DeFi. And, along with the XRP and the institutional holders there, And eventually Bitcoin will get voted on. I'm kind of the mind that I think we should wait a little longer just because of how much value there is. And, they want to get okay, so this is something else I didn't bring up with the distribution. They kind of have this liquidity and, how much tokens are entering the market at a time to kind of help rev up the asset system and not flood the market with too much liquidity, where the spark price is highly volatile for months on end, basically. Right. So that's another way to kind of control that.
Prevents dumps.
Yes.
Which
exactly,
there's going to be anyway. If they're putting 15% of the market, there's going to be dumps.
I agree. There's going to be dumps. And you guys may have seen the IOUs. I'm not a financial advisor or anything, but I think they're highly overvalued. And I'll say immediately why. If the token price of Spark was $1 at launch, it'd be in the top 10.
Yeah.
Polkadot didn't go immediately into the top 10, and that's one of the most successful ICOs I've seen. And also, if you remember, what is it, Definity, the Internet Computer Protocol one? Mm-hmm. They've fallen back tremendously since they popped in really quick. Yeah. So if that did happen, I would imagine a dump would ensue. I already think there's going to be one, especially with the complexity that's kind of around this network. I get a lot of comments all the time. They're like, "Oh, this stuff is way too hard to understand. How they expect us to do anything?" And I'm just all right,
exactly the point I was about to make.
Yeah, you don't have to be the first one, but
yeah, exactly. Basically everybody. Let's call a spade a spade. A lot of these guys were throwing in to get their free airdrop because it's a lottery ticket. Yeah. They have no interest in utilizing this or understanding anything about it. They just want to see it go from X to Y to Z, and then they're going to dump. And that a lot of that'll probably happen in the first 100 hours of possession. And then, first couple of weeks of release is going to be kind of a wild gyration. But I think given the fact that it's not going to be easy to just get that stuff anywhere, it'll calm down pretty quick. But that first 100 hours or so, oh, man.
Yeah, we could see it go up at first. So, I've looked at some of the older, forks and stuff, which, are a little different situation. But, you'll see them shoot up at the beginning, and then they'll dump over the ensuing week.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think if the market's kind of still, crapping around by the time it launches, that, it may be relatively cheap compared to what it would be in, a decent market. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But
now, as an aside, taking the whole, this is kind of a broad question, taking the whole crypto market in and of itself, and I know you're already a fan, so you got kind of a jaded opinion as I do. Would you, if you were, let's come at it this way, if you were coming in off the street, you're listening to this broadcast, you're going, I think I need to get me some of this. Would you advise grabbing FLR at some point in time and owning some straight off the street? Would you view that to be in the top echelon of things that you would own if you came in as a complete noob?
Yeah, okay, I gotcha. Yeah, so the reason I would buy it is if you're going to learn how to earn yield off of it. Personally, I think there's other projects if you're just looking for immediate ROI and returns of, price appreciation really fast.
Right, I'm talking about the stimmy check guys. They get their $600 and they're looking to throw down on something. Would you put this to the top of the line, or would you put something else before it? I already know what my answer would be, but I'm curious to see what
if you're talking about somebody that doesn't have a lot to put in.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I still think XRP, as far as just because it's been held back so much.
Ding, ding, ding! Give that man a prize.
Yeah, it's just it never reached the all-time high because of the case. Basically, it got knocked out of the entire first 2/3 of the bull run. So that thing's kind of going to be very coiled up if that case goes well. So you got to make your own decisions about that. I'm thinking it looks kind of good so far.
You were listening in on that case. We hadn't really discussed this off air and stuff, and we'll probably discuss this on a future crypto chat. What was your take here? I'll let you get back to business, but what was your take on that last call that they did?
Yeah, absolutely. So me and my partner Mickey had a live stream about this earlier, but to me, the SEC is looking desperate. They don't want him in to get deposed. And then the fact that the Ripple lawyer, I can't remember which one, may have been Chris Larson's lawyer, he says basically that Hinman, a week before he does his, infamous now Ether speech, went and spoke with Consensus and the Ethereum Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a little weird. We also know that his law firm was paying him while he was at the SEC, and they get paid by they're part of the Ethereum Alliance. So there's a lot of, you know, sketchiness kind of around that whole speech.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want, you know, him to divulge what people thought about that speech.
Yeah, they don't want to air that laundry out.
Yeah, so like, let's say he may go, oh, these were personal opinions, and the SEC continues to say they've made no decision on whether Ethereum is a security or not. This guy just went out there and told everybody and used the words "we," but let's forget that anyways.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like,
well,
but the thing is, if industry players took that as guidance, well, that could show a lack of fair notice on the SEC. That's kind of like what we think the case will ultimately come down to is, you know, can the SEC get fair notice thrown out? Now, I'm not going to say Ripple's going to lose if fair notice gets thrown out. I don't think I'd go that far for sure.
Yeah.
But if they win on they can win on fair notice. It's like 8 years of not being told that XRP was a security, even though they had been engaging them for years before this was dropped, trying to figure out. We know like Coinbase went to the SEC to ask about it. They felt good enough to list XRP in 2019. XRP did not have an ICO, and then Ethereum did have a pre-sale ICO before the network was there were not even Ether tokens at that point. So like, you're telling me this guy that has all these connections with Ethereum says that's cool, and then his buddy Jay Clayton, the head guy, drops this lawsuit on the way out. There's just a lot of stuff that doesn't add up. You know, it's kind of like, you can tell, you know, I'll give anybody their guess on who is ultimately behind that. Was it just Clayton on his own, or like, you know, or, you know, somebody paying them or whatever? You know, I'll let anybody speculate on it, but everything around it just looks weird.
I have a lot of guys in the Discord and in the channel, and I've covered this extensively. My opinion, my 30-some years of business and dealing with the legal professions in and out, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's long been my contention that nobody wants to lose this, because now it's a battle of egos and a battle of track records. And so what my prediction is I can't give you a win, but I can definitely give you a how I expect this to play out. I do expect this to be a settlement where both of them come out to the courthouse steps and claim that they're the victor. I really, honestly, deep in my heart, I believe that's exactly, you know, they're going to say, well, we sure got him. They're both going to come out. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be the judge smacking the gavel down and saying, okay, we have a winner and we have a loser. I don't think it's going to play that way. And so what I end up coming to consensus, or coming to the personal belief is I think there will be a settlement that'll happen. When it just gets too hard to push the bullshit anymore, they'll come and somebody's going to have to come hat in hand, and they're going to say, okay, let's talk. Let's seriously talk. But they got to go through all this posturing first. But I think there's going to be a closed door, behind closed doors agreement, and, you know, no one will know the depth of, or no one will know the details of it, so that both parties can come out and claim a win for themselves. Because the SEC does not want to look bad in this, because first of all, they're spending our money to screw with us, and you know, that doesn't bode well from a public defender standpoint. So you wasted all this friggin' money doing what? Screwing us, trying to protect us, and they just can't have that, you know. So anyway, but I diverge off the topic though. But go ahead and get back to what you were saying. I just kind of had to get that out there.
No, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, I agree. It's probably going to be a settlement, and then otherwise it'll come down to the judge, like, doing summary judgment, I think, on the fair notice issue. So, you know, I think we still have more time to play out in the discovery process. I think it could go till the end of December or maybe October.
I'm expecting October to December to kind of be. I was actually kind of expecting
the
2 levels.
Pick back up.
I was actually kind of expecting here that we're going to get probably multiples of activity. Where, you know, you got the personal case and then you get the broader case. So one or the other. I don't think they're both going to come to a head at one time. But what I do expect is something to happen around about October, November, but I'm expecting during summertime here we're going to get something that's going to start the market moving. That's my personal belief.
Yeah, I gotcha. Interesting. I mean, that could line up. Sometimes these things line up. It's interesting. But, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my take on that. It's kind of, you know, bad optics from the SEC. I mean, it does look pretty corrupt what's been going on there. You know, we have Elon Roisman and Hester Pierce come out, and they're 2 of the commissioners of the 5 total for the SEC. And they just said the other day how the SEC has been, pretty much unwilling to provide guidance on cryptocurrencies as, their security status, which I think helps Ripple there. You have two commissioners that have been there for a while saying the SEC has just been unwilling to do this. So I think that's pretty powerful as well. And I wonder if they're going to get a talking to for that one.
Most assuredly.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you want to get back into Flare? You got anything else?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Cool. So I think we've covered pretty much most of the stuff with like what the Flare team's building with Flare Network. And so there are quite a few projects that are going to be launching. I mentioned one earlier, Panther Protocol, and then briefly mentioned Flare Finance and Trustline. So let's go to Flare Finance. That's definitely going to be launching the fastest after Flare goes live. Mm-hmm. And they also are bringing 6 different DeFi basically protocols or applications, whatever you want to call them, to Flare Network at launch. Like Ethereum, we often see like Uniswap, just centered around trading, or Compound lending. They're kind of focused on like a singular financial like type of thing they can do. So with Flare Finance, they're going to have Flare X, which is going to be their decentralized exchange with 2-sided liquidity pools. They're going to be 50-50, just like Uniswap. They're going to have Flare Loans, which is going to incorporate a stablecoin into it. They'll have Flare Mutual, which will be an insurance product where you can provide coverage to like applications launching on Flare and things like that. Additionally, they'll have Flare Wrap. There's already 23. It's somewhere like 18 to 20 tokens that can be wrapped from other networks onto Flare Finance. And they have that on their Twitter. It's like pinned to the top if you guys want to look. I can't remember every single one. And then on top of that, let's see. So we did Flare Mutual, Flare Loans, Flare Wrap, Flare X. Okay, they have Flare Farm, which is their basically like fair distribution area. So this is where they'll be releasing one of their tokens from. So they're going to have 2 tokens. One is going to be airdropped to Spark holders. The other is going to be earned by participating in the applications in their ecosystem. And so the first one, which is called YFLR, it's going to have 110 million token supply, and that will be considered the secondary governance token. And then YFIN is Yield Fin, and that is going to be the primary governance token with an 11,000 token supply. So very small. I'm sure you guys have seen like Yearn Finance. It's about, a fourth the size of that token supply, so much smaller. That's kind of viewed as the primo token of Flare Finance, basically, and 10,000 of that 11,000 supply is going to be distributed through 3 of those products that we were talking about. So Flare Farm, it will have 8,000 being distributed through, and then Flare Loans will have 1,000 distributed through it, and Flare Mutual will have another 1,000, and then 1,000 is getting put in a reserve pool. So Flare Finance will have a DAO. That's something that the DAO could vote to use for some specific reason. Now, with Flare Farm, the way to get that YFIN is by providing liquidity into liquidity pools. There's going to be 7 total ones that have the ability to go in Flare Farm and stake LP tokens there, which is just a representation of the value you have in a liquidity pool. And so for the liquidity pools, they'll all be paired with their stablecoin, YUSD, and we'll have all 4 F assets will each have their own pool. YFLR will have a pool, YFIN will have a pool, and then also the Spark token will have a pool with them. So 8,000 go into this Flare Farm application that you have to provide liquidity to be able to earn that and stake there. Now, the thing with Flare Farm is that they're going to distribute 4,000 of that 8,000 going there in the first 6 months. So the rewards for that token will be the highest in the first 6 months of that project launching. So that's really important because you would also think the participation is going to be at its lowest also, and then you also have the highest reward rate coming out. So, ultimately that's when you would want to go in. There's other things to worry about liquidity pools, but that's kind of, I think, outside the scope of this discussion. And then additionally, with Flare Loans, they're incentivizing borrowers and lenders with YFIN. Similarly, they'll release 50% of that total being distributed there within the first 6 months. So you could potentially take, let's say you mint FXRP, you could mint, you take it to the Flare Loans platform, use it as collateral, take out a loan, you could go use it in like the liquidity pools and then earn fees from those, and then also go and stake in a Flare farm to earn YFIN. But also, while you did all that, you're earning YFIN from the Flare loans platform. Maybe that's something you could do to like pay back the loan. You know,
Apologize, guys. I don't know why the sound keeps dropping out. I mean, I'm not touching any buttons, and it just dropped.
I wonder if it's me. Huh.
No, it's actually on my broadcast software. I mean, I'm not touching anything, and it just dropped out for no reason.
It's all right. I've had many sound problems.
Drives me nuts when I get. I watch these YouTubers that jack with their sound for 45 minutes before they get on with the show. It's like, fix that stuff before you start broadcasting. So I apologize, guys. So go ahead.
That's all right. Yeah. Can y'all hear us now?
Yeah, it's back. Basically, it's just the mic got shut off for whatever reason. It's a hotkey that's got a mind of its own or something like that.
Gotcha. Cool. That sounds good. Were you asking me a question where we left off?
No.
Apologies. Cool. Yeah, so with Flare Finance, you're going to have, let me see if I left off one of the applications real quick, but we said, so
let's go back. I know where I was at. I was asking you when you anticipate all of this stuff going live.
Yes, that's what it was.
Start from there. So
yeah, so originally they were saying, or the most recent update was end of July at the latest. We're about 2 weeks from that right now. They're still in the middle of the second security audit. They're having 3 done, so they still have another one to go. Also, Flare Finance is supposed to be doing a beta test before it launches. So is the Bifrost wallet, which is like it's going to be a multi-chain wallet, but is very dedicated to Flare, being made by Toho Labs, who's pretty integrated into the XRP community. They're directly working with the Flare, or kind of consulting with them on this wallet they're creating. So those 2 things needing to happen. We're also supposed to get updates here in a few days. So I imagine if there's going to be a pushback, they would be announcing there. But we're just going to have to see what happens. Maybe they will be ready by July 31st. It's just, we're getting close now. And there's more things to be done. So, I'd keep an eye on that. Otherwise, I imagine it would be pretty shortly after that. And if they were going to move it back, I guess they would probably, give it more timeline since if they're doing that. Because people kind of have been pissy that it didn't launch directly at the end of Q2.
Right.
Some people online think that they're supposed to launch it in December. I don't know how they ever got that idea, but... Oh, okay. You know what I forgot, though, since we kind of touched on that? With Flare Finance, I knew there was one application that I was forgetting that I think is pretty cool. So... basically, if you're an ASIC miner on like Bitcoin or Litecoin, or maybe, I don't know if Ethereum uses the ASIC too. I think they do. But if you do that, you can basically hook up with Flare Finance and you can take any like Bitcoin or Litecoin mined and automatically swap it into an F asset, which, would start earning yield immediately. And that's part of those F asset rewards pools I was talking about earlier. The rates are set pretty high at that. We don't know them finally, but they need to be able to provide people more than just the FTSO is doing, which is about 28 million per day in Spark. So I imagine those F asset pools are probably going to be somewhere between 20 to 40 million Spark tokens being, basically airdropped to your wallet just for owning an F asset. So you can see with bringing your assets onto the Flare network in the form of F assets, as well as earning the Spark token, both of them just have automatic yield with those, the F asset pool or the FTSO. And then also you can go and take them into like Flare Finance or something like that, and then earn yield on top of that. So it's not like let's say you're staking, on, let's say Polkadot or something, you lock your token in there, there's an unbonding period, and all you do is get whatever the yield is coming for helping to validate the network. Since the Flare network doesn't rely on a proof of stake consensus to ensure the security of the network, like the token's not involved in it, that's what gives it this ability to be able to go and used in different ways. And I really think that opens everything up. You also don't have the problem where the security is reliant on how much value is staked with the validators. So like if we get to a point where the value that's operating on the ecosystem is getting higher than how much value is staked with validators and proof of stake systems, that puts a cap on the scaling as it can start becoming less secure. So what Flare does with their consensus is it's similar to how the XRP ledger and Stellar run. Stellar was, a new version on top of what XRP did, and now Flare is, building on top of what Stellar did. And it basically retooled the Avalanche consensus protocol to the federated Byzantine agreement. I won't go into the minutiae of that, but that also allows the network to have extremely fast transactions per second. It's supposed to be, they haven't released final numbers, what I've heard is like 5 to 6K per second, much higher than Stellar and XRP, obviously higher than like Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then also the gas fees are going to be really cheap. Like Binance Smart Chain, they came out, they have a super centralized, I wouldn't say super, but, much more centralized than a lot of blockchains. They kind of solved the transaction problem, but now you have to worry about Binance, which I don't think is a great thing. So Flare's kind of solving those technical issues, and it's also going to be decentralized. It's going to be, run by the Spark token holders. They're going to be voters to make changes on the network. And then they're also distributing the token out in this way where only 25% is going to the original team. They don't get it all at once. And they're also planning to be participants in the network. So I think Flare has a really solid chance to start off pretty close to fully decentralized. The Oracle is going to be decentralized. The method for bringing assets on and off, it's considered trustless by the nature of the F asset system. It can dynamically basically fill gaps and incentivize people to step in for others that need to be stepped in for. So this leads me into another thing. It has a special connection with the XRP ledger. And I actually heard, I was listening to your video with Red Bear earlier this week. You guys were talking about stablecoins, and how Tether's very sketchy. You don't even know about USDC and stuff like this.
They're all pretty sketchy, really.
Exactly.
You introduce, just to kind of give everybody kind of a primer. If you guys want to hear that video, just go back to, it's in our catalog under crypto chats as well here on the channel, so you can go back and listen to that, and we cover that at great length. But generally speaking, any third party or any stable coin is the very nature of stable coins is not exactly secure because of third party risk is basically the thrust of what we're talking about in that chat. So go ahead. Yeah,
so there's a project called Trustline that's launching on the Flare network as well. It's going to be one they're creating their own stablecoin ecosystem. They're going to be creating fiat on and off ramps to directly. You could potentially, start avoiding exchanges if you want to operate on Flare, which is nice.
Amen.
And yeah, exactly. They're working on to see if they can build some kind of credit system as well, so we can do credit on a decentralized network. What that's going to entail, that's a longer term plan. The guy that is making this project, though, his name's Matt Rosenden, and he was one of the head devs for hooking RippleNet clients up with, their ODL system with what used to be Xcurrent and XVIA and all those products they have. So I think he did stuff with like Santander, PNC, so some of their bigger partners. He's creating this project. But basically, it's going to be a decentralized stablecoin that's backed by FXRP to start. So there was a video that came out from David Schwartz, who is one of the original guys that worked on the XRP ledger. He also was an early Bitcoin dev, not a part of the team that I know of that created Bitcoin, even though I know some people like to say it. I think it's somebody else. But he came out with this proposal about creating a stablecoin that's XRP backed, which is kind of coming to fruition on Flare Network with smart contracts. But what this project does do is, once this stablecoin is created, it can be issued trustlessly onto the XRP ledger, which now gives the XRP ledger another decentralized asset on top of XRP, and it's a stablecoin, which can help give you that, unit of account basically to do trades off of on top of having XRP. So the XRP ledger has a built-in order book DEX, which has been there since like 2013, and it never gets used since they got slapped with FinCEN and DOJ fines in like 2015 for doing this. But they're fine now, basically. So it's going to be able to bring like a decentralized stablecoin onto the XRP ledger, and the issuer would technically be the Flare network rather than some kind of like institution. So you have a decentralized network issuing a stablecoin backed by FXRP onto the XRP ledger to be used there in trading, and hopefully I'm hoping that can eventually help the DEX flourish on the XRP ledger. Additionally, any of these F assets can be issued trustlessly onto the XRP ledger as well through what they have like gateways and issued currency functions. So we could see, I know there's people that already will issue Bitcoin IOUs onto the XRP ledger to send it across. Well, let's say Bitcoin becomes an F asset. You can bring it, it can be on the Flare network as FBTC, and then it can be propagated onto the XRP ledger and traded across that for whatever reason. So let's say you got RippleNet clients hooked in and they want to, exchange some Bitcoin or something like that. That's a way they could do that in the future. So I think that's really cool. And that project's bringing a lot of stuff that's just kind of needed. So that fiat on and off ramp, it can basically be used as a crypto bank. So they're going to, they're working on a application interface and all that stuff, integrating what's called PayString. So if you have a Venmo account or PayPal, you just have a username, mine could be Patty XRP for me or something like that. So I think that's really powerful, and I'm excited about that project. So additionally, on top of that, we kind of talked about Panther Protocol earlier. That's going to be another kind of DeFi related one that's coming. That's interesting because they're going to launch on basically all the smart contract networks. So they'll be on Solana, Polkadot, Avalanche eventually, along with Flare and Ethereum. And, they're eventually, I think what they're trying to do is become a layer 1 blockchain on their own. They have L1 and L2 components. So they're going to have an interchain DEX to trade privately between these blockchains as well. So I think that's a great partnership for Flare. I think that's probably a pretty good overview to this point. I think of a lot of what's going on with Flare. I'm curious if people have any particular questions in the chat.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a delay. We have a little bit of a delay on our chat here, but you guys, if you have any additional questions before we cut you loose for the night, let me kill a little bit of airtime here while you guys go ahead and fire some questions at him. He can read the chat, so he'll be able to read what you're asking here. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a break. So you guys are just drifting in here, picking up mid-conversation, didn't catch the beginning of the show. Certainly you want to scroll all the way back, listen to the whole show. And of course, obviously, my name is Red Baron. I am from the unfairadvantage.chat, which is our main website or our main get-together group. And of course, obviously, we do AI-powered predictive charting here. I'm sitting here right now while he's talking. I'm watching our charts that are powered powered by AI, and they're playing out very, very well. We just watched Doge just bounce to the bottom of a channel here, and we're getting ready for a plunge, boys and girls. It's going to happen. So if you guys would like to see what it is we do, certainly just go ahead, just click, just to make it easy, just go ahead and take a look at the link descriptions in the video here. You'll find a description to, or you'll find a link to our website at fibbycharts.com and one to our Discord, which is free to join. You guys can go ahead and come on in, no charge to be there. That's at theunfairadvantage.chat.
Nice. I need you to get me a Polkadot call.
Get you a Polkadot call? Can do.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm watching that one right now. That and the XRP is most interested.
How you come down on Cardano? What do you think about Cardano? You probably heard enough of my past.
So I haven't looked enough, and honestly, my reluctance to look is because Charles Hoskinson really rubs me the wrong way. And you know, there's so many projects out here that you can't look into everyone.
Well, that's the thing. I have everybody go, what's
zone in on them and try and make the most out of an ecosystem where I know that I can earn. So the nice part about Flare is that a lot of this token's distribution is happening very early on, so people are highly incentivized to be early adopters, basically the network. So my whole thing is, all right, Flare has some very unique things going for it. Has extremely scalable consensus with smart contracts. It's already bootstrapping off some other networks. It got a good team behind it, got good investors. We already see an ecosystem developing.
And the most important part about that is it's got the bankers backing it.
Yes,
Never
exactly.
bet against the bankers. I always try to distill this down to the bare essence for my listeners. Never bet against the bankers. They're not in business to lose. I've been saying this for 6 to 12 months. So you guys are, what are you interested in that XRP? Have you ever seen a banker lose money? It doesn't work that way. All this other stuff is speculative. This is in the bag, boys and girls. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, so what we have here is with all these early incentives with the Spark token is if the network does well, you had an opportunity early on to really focus on compounding daily yield and getting as much of the Spark token as you can without additional capital invested. Now, if you don't have one of the 4F assets I named or the Spark token, obviously you're going to have to purchase something to get into the network. But basically, you have the opportunity to earn all these tokens without investing more. So it's I've been building my XRP position for years, and now I'm in this really fortunate position where I get this airdrop with Spark. There's another Flare Finance airdrop on top. I can use
Explain that
airdrop.
second. I hate to interrupt you. Explain that second airdrop.
How that works.
We're getting a few people that are asking on that. You were in the zone there. I want you to kind of circle back on
definitely.
that. A second airdrop. People love a good airdrop, so let's kind of fill in the gaps on that a little bit. If you
Awesome. Can. Yeah. So this one's a little confusing, and I'll try and go through it as best as I can. So Flare Finance with the YFLR token going to have 110 million supply. 40 million is going to go to Spark holders 1 month after launch. So 30 days after Flare Network launches, this airdrop will occur, and 40 million of the 110 million are going to be airdropped. 40 million others are going into a reserve pool that's part of that APY cloud named Kakibo now, that kind of basically is used to top people up if they fall below the minimum APY. And then the other 30 million are going to a few other things like the foundation, some to the team.
The key question is how does a person get that? For the last thing, all you had to do is just dump your XRP on Coinbase and sit back and let it happen.
So once you have your Spark tokens, basically they'll have the snapshot, and you can use Bifrost Wallet, MetaMask, Decent, or whatever exchanges are going to be hooked up with Flare Finance. Those are still TBD. I think right now BitTrue and Uphold. I know for sure.
Do you think Coinbase?
Which one?
You think Coinbase is probably going to happen?
Dude, I honestly, I saw Binance US doesn't look like they're going to list the Spark token. So I feel like if Binance US isn't listing the Spark token, Coinbase isn't going to be doing Flare Finance. But we'll have to see. Let's see what Coinbase does with the Spark token. If they list it, I think it's a possibility. But these wallets you can get, MetaMask is available to everybody. Correct. And so they'll kind of explain when we get closer if there's anything specific or anywhere you can't be to where you wouldn't receive it. As far as I know, you can be participating in the Flare Finance ecosystem when the snapshot happens, and you'll still be able to get the airdrop. So what they're dropping, since this is going to be considered an initial DAO offering, it's going to be called DFLR, and it's called DAO Flare. this is going to be then used to swap into the YFLR token, and you'll have to do that over a 7 to 10 day period. When you do it, you'll register. So here's another thing. Flare Finance and Trustline are going to have KYC AML. It's going to be like a lower layer of it, but it's going to be involved in, I think if anybody follows regulators, like that stuff's coming eventually. So I think it's good they're getting ahead of it. Yeah. So you'll go through that process. I think you'll just KYC your wallet with, it's called Civic. And then also you'll watch some tutorials similar if you're getting like, getting set up trading on TD Ameritrade with options or something like that. So you'll go through that, and then you can swap the DFLR tokens one for the YFLR ones. If you don't swap after that 7 to 10 day period, which will be finalized closer to this, then those DFLR tokens are going to be burned and they have no use anywhere on the ecosystem. So that's basically what it comes down to. So let's say you're getting the airdrop, what can you include in this? Basically, you'll get your first 15% airdrop of Spark. Then you'll have 30 days to accumulate as much as you want. So I imagine just similar to how XRP, went up a good 10 to 15 cents, I think, before the airdrop or snapshot for the Spark token. We'll see something, we'll see the price moving up like the week before. Interestingly enough, with the Flare Network airdrop, like I'd say about like 15 or 30 minutes before the actual snapshot time, it started going down because there were people just kind of playing that trade and not caring about the airdrop.
Which is very common in dividend capturing in stock. Yeah. Stock. I had talked to our group on the Discord at the unfairadvantage.chat. I had predicted that was going to happen because it was very, very comparable to what's a technique known as dividend capturing in stocks. When Coca-Cola is paying out on December 15th, people are, don't give a rip about Coca-Cola, but they know there's a payout. And so they load up on stock and then they dump it, and it's a play as old as time. So I saw that coming for this, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of the gist of how that will work. So one thing about the YFIN token, which I think will get people excited, and this is just me speculating here. I don't know where the price is eventually going to go, but if we take a look, it's 11,000 token supply. We look at, you can go to CoinMarketCap and look at all the DApp tokens that are out there. So, you got like Compound or Uniswap, Chainlink, that kind of stuff. So basically, let's say it was priced at $100,000 per token, that would only be a $1.1 billion market cap. So there's about, I think, over 10 tokens, maybe more than that are, DeFi type tokens, DApp tokens that have over a 1 billion market cap. So you can see, like, maybe this thing starts out pretty low. I don't know how low it would start out, but, it could be a very high-value token if the Flare Finance and Flare Network succeed. So for me, it's kind of like, I liken it to, there's this, like, old, Bible story about, two farmers. One prepares his field for the rain and one doesn't. If you don't prepare for possible rain, and rain to me is like success of a network, then you kind of miss that opportunity. It's like, well, it doesn't matter that the rain came. So for me, it's like, I don't ultimately know how successful price-wise Flare Network or any of the DeFi applications are on there. We can see that the industry is moving in that direction, and I have the opportunity to get on the ground floor of a new, possibly like really great network. So for me, it's like, all right, I want to get some of that action. That's kind of how I look at it. It's very difficult to know long term which projects are going to be the best ones always. So for me, it's like, all right, we've outlined a lot of stuff that Flare Network does that can be better than other networks, where it improves upon, how it's getting going, how's it incentivizing people to participate in the network. That's like a huge new field in, economics. It's like token engineering and mechanism design. It's not enough to just build something. You got to like give people incentives to participate in the ways that are going to make that baby fly.
Absolutely. Well, we saw that. We saw that with Flamingo on kind of a different deal. I mean, I brought Flamingo to the platinum level subscriber charts, and we were talking. Flamingo was paying out in their liquidity pools, was paying out over 100% within 365 days, and that was just all about incentive. And now that they've kind of got to a point where they're at, Red Bear tells us they've cut it back down to like 35%. So Pardon me, I got a cop driving by here. If you guys hear alarms in the background, yeah, they incentivizing. I mean, those are opportunities. When these people are paying out those high rates of return. With risk comes reward, but we're never in our lives ever going to see the opportunity, insurmountable opportunity that we're seeing right now in the next 3 to 4 years, 5 years tops. It's just not going to be this way, when we're 20, 30 years down the road. This will be old hat by then. So being able to pick those ponies, we were talking about this, Patty. There's so many things. Diversity. Neither one of us are big diversity fans, but you got to kind of strike a pose between going all in on one or two. But diversity has its place. Getting a few.
Yeah, for me, like, diversification is great if you're trying to preserve what you already have. But I imagine a lot of people are in crypto because they're trying to make more money here than they can in other places.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, to make more money, you can't do that unless you're taking risk. So, one risk is not diversifying, but that means if you pick the right horse, you make a lot more, money in that way than, trying to pick 20 of them and then one winning. Well, the upside you have there is capped because you got to put value in to get more value out of it.
Correct.
And so that's kind of something you have to balance. So, like, for me, XRP has always seemed like if it works out, it's going to have one of the best ROIs out there. And as a young person, not originally when I got in, I was in college, not having a lot of money to invest. I'm like, all right, that's what I want to take a shot on. They have a lot of stuff going on that's good.
How long have you been in XRP?
I got in my senior year of college, so December 2017. Yeah, I haven't sold yet either or anything. So yeah, I mean, I'm only in right now XRP and DOT. Which and then Flare is going to happen. So, like, sure. I'm going to get Spark, and then I want to get that Y Flare token, and also especially that YFIN token, just with the possible price appreciation that could come with that. I think, and then also with that governance staking pool, where if the price appreciates, I have a place where I can get pretty good yield on it, as we were outlining earlier, that it's like guaranteed basically. So to me, that'll kind of start diversifying me a little bit. And maybe there's a couple other projects I would get into. But, there are a ton of good projects out there that do, really great things. But the thing is, how are you going to, capture the attention of the retail people? And then also how are you going to, catch attention of like traditional finance? Like, how are you going to get them in? Building it is not enough. You gotta provide them more than that, because we have thousands of blockchains out here to choose from, and it's just it's too much. You really can't choose from all of them. I believe there will definitely be quite a few winners in the long run, but they're going to be
there's going to be a big washout
than they are today.
There's a big washout definitely.
We'll see DApp tokens. Like DApp tokens, I see endless possibilities with those and NFTs. NFTs, like, interestingly enough, I've seen people using them to represent tranches and bonds and stuff like that. So I mean, that's a use case I never even thought of. Like, you could have all these different mortgages via NFTs, and then from there you can combine them into like a mortgage-backed security basically with tranches and all that stuff. So I know that's like not the best example because of the housing crisis, but it's interesting to me that they're starting to use like NFTs in that way to represent financial products.
Well, they're going to be doing that with patents. And what I'm hearing coming down is that's highly likely, as I've talked about on several live streams, is highly likely to be involved with the Stellar network.
Interesting.
Because that has IBM ties, and IBM has deep, deep, deep ties with government. So, as I'm often say, is Big Blue is almost like the government. Big Blue is IBM for those young folks that don't understand what I mean by that. It's nicknamed as Big Blue, and IBM is one of those. It's so old school it will never fail. IBM is International Business Machines. It's not named that because they just like the sound of it. It's international, and much as international banking is, governments are. It's in every corner of the planet. So if they're deciding that they want to bring in XLM and IBM are indelibly linked together. Maybe not so publicly, but they are. And if a lot of people have been watching, not to divert the conversation too much, but a lot of people have been asking, what's going to happen right now? We're seeing XLM kind of run at about 30 to 40 cents of what XRP is. And so I've got some predictions that I've been making on live streams for where I see, when we smash down to 22 to 25 cents, which is where I'm thinking XRP is going to probably flatline when we get our last hurrah to the bottom. We might be seeing anywhere from 8 to 11 cents on XLM. But I do see on the turnaround and the come up, you guys that are, again, we're not handing out financial advice here. This is only a couple guys just talking crypto, and you guys are listening in. But it is my opinion that those guys are just in it for the quick buck. Those guys are just wanting fast appreciation. I believe XLM will come up faster and realize the best ROI compared to XRP. Long run, XRP will stomp it, but I think short term, XLM will do better. And by short term, I mean within the next 365 days.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I do want to say I see some people referencing Brad Garlinghouse's statement a couple years ago that 90% of the tokens are going to go away. I kind of feel like he's been proven wrong to this point. We've only seen the space grow, and while I agree there's a lot of crap tokens out there, there is as far as NFTs, I mean each one of those is its own individual token. As we're going to see people build more on top of blockchains, we may see kind of the layer 1 tokens, like, your blue chips basically going away, or not going away, but stepping to the forefront more, and some of the ones that aren't as good falling off finally.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I think just in the future, the whole mechanism design of these different projects that are being built, you could use tokens for any reason. Sometimes I'll see tokens used to capture interest and be able to deliver it to different places. Tokens can be used for governance of all these different projects. I think we're going to see a lot of companies that have, online businesses eventually build them maybe as something like a parachain on Polkadot or a side chain on the XRPL, or, however they're doing that on all the different smart contract networks out there. And so, I mean, I think we could see more in the future. It's just maybe different than what you think of it as today. I don't one of the things I'm big on is, kind of being open to a lot of possibilities. You can think something's unlikely, but at least being aware that it could happen.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
Right. Well, there's just, it's mind-numbing. As I listen to you talk and as I listen to you kind of break down the stuff tonight, I'm musing to myself as I'm listening to you. I'm thinking of probably 20, 30 friends that I got that you're speaking Greek. They have no idea what you're talking about.
I know, it's tough sometimes. I get that.
You might as well be talking about a diagram to a spaceship because it makes about as much sense. And it's oftentimes hard for a lot of us that are involved in crypto to fully understand how early we are into this and how much opportunity there is, but how much there is even for us to have to learn, because a percentage, just to get a little percentage of all, the world is never going to be the same, as what our grandparents and even our parents have lived through. And education is a must, and those who educate themselves will come out to be the new wealthy. I mean, you can't fall ass backwards into money with this. You just can't. You have to spend the time learning what these things do and how they're applied, and even then it's a lucky guess at best. You're saying it yourself. I mean, you're kind of picking the ones you understand and you believe in, but again, there is an element of risk to every single one of these, even XRP that you buy into.
No, there is. I mean, look, as great as XRP seems today and prime for the future, we can never know if something bad's going to happen that affects it. You don't know until it happens sometimes. Things come out of nowhere. We're all very, very aware of that at this point. Yeah. So it is. I mean, look, we're very early. These networks still have a long way to go in terms of getting prime for just global usage. And I think that's one of the things I, maybe didn't get as much in the beginning. There's kind of a saying with tech where, normally it, runs short of short-term expectations, but in the long run, it normally way outperforms what kind of expectations place on tech.
Correct.
And I think that's really true for crypto. We can see, Bitcoin's been around for 12 years now, and the adoption's pretty good right now, but it's still highly volatile. We still kind of have these cycles. I think we're getting to a place where they won't be as deep with DeFi, where people can actually, still earn on their tokens, even in a down market. I mean, you can look into like liquidity pools basically are an excellent way to hedge your risk basically, because let's say you get into one at the top of a market, and the market's going down, for let's say it goes down for 6 months before it starts rebounding. Well, that entire time you're earning fees that are being transacted through that liquidity pool. And then, like in the case of Player Finance, they're going to have YFIN distributed for 2 years. So if it's during that time frame, you're also getting that. So I mean, yes, some of the price appreciation, you're getting the short end of the stick there, but you are earning fees and you are earning an additional asset in the meantime. Now, let's say, these markets, I think if you're in crypto, you believe they're going to come back. You believe they're going to be multiple blockchains in the trillions of dollars possibly one day. Well, you don't really care if it goes down for a while. You're here to hold for a while. So, like, you can participate in stuff that earns you yield at the same time. So you can accumulate more of these tokens and then, also wait it out. And you don't actually have to put in any more money to do that, which is really powerful now. So it's like you're putting your money to work for you. That's what the rich people do. You can leverage these loan systems, and you can be really safe about it. Like, you can over collateralize it to a point where you can withstand a 50% drop, which I mean is probably the most severe thing I've seen in the course of one day. So there's just a lot of new things coming out that's going to enable it. We're seeing gaming tokenized on the blockchain now. Like, I didn't even get into Gala Games much, but they're doing blockchain gaming. They're on Flare Network. They're going to be on Binance Smart Chain. They're allowing you to basically own the items in the game in the form of NFTs, rather than, let's say you play Call of Duty for 6 months, you build up your account really well, and then it's just kind of gone at the end. You don't really have any control. You can't resell it. And things like that. So there's just a lot of areas that are ripe for fixing. Like, we could see healthcare and tokenizing of medical records. So
that's
there's so many industries. Yeah, there's so many industries that are going to be opened up with this stuff. And, we're in like the first or second inning still.
Shipping, inventory control. All right, well, I'll tell you what, we could keep on going and going and going, but we want to kind of break this up to probably about 3 or 4 more visits. So I want to thank our special guest, Patty XRP. We will have him back. So you guys that have been part of the broadcast that have just kind of drifted in and out, please join us at the unfairadvantage.chat. Just see my mods are posting the link there. And you can, of course, obviously check us out at fibbycharts.com. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and we will cut you loose for tonight. Thank you very much for being a part of what we're doing. Until tomorrow on our regularly scheduled broadcast, be safe, be good, and be good at it. Peace and hair grease, baby.